am Danny Gasparini, and welcome to this segment of PenVoice. I'm joined today by Derek Wolfgram, who is the library director for Redwood City Public Library. Derek, welcome.
Thank you.
It's been a few years since you and I have had a conversation on PenVoice. In those few years, the Redwood City Library system has changed quite a bit. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you look like today and some of the programs and services that you're offering?
Sure, that'd be great. So yeah, one of the things that attracted me to Redwood City Public Library in the first place was the fact that it is a very innovative library system, always has been, and we've just continued to build on that since I've been here. So we still have an incredible array of different children's and family programs that happen. We've added some interactive spaces in all 4 of our libraries now, where there are kind of developmental play spaces that are really fun for the kids to come in, but they're learning early literacy skills as they do that. Our Project Read Literacy program is still going very strong. We've got a lot more online now than we had a few years ago. You know, there's been a growth of that in libraries with ebooks and online audiobooks and streaming video and music and magazines and comic books. It's amazing what's available to access through the library website these days. A couple of newer programs that we have added. One great one is called Career Online High School. We have a program that actually allows people to earn their accredited high school diploma at the library. It's not a GED course, it's an actual diploma. So we graduated 3 students last fall, and we're graduating 3 more this spring. So we'll actually have 6 people that have their high school diplomas from Redwood City Public Library. We've started checking out wireless hotspots. I think probably the biggest thing that we've done differently is we're doing a lot of listening to our community about what they would like to see. We did a whole series of community conversations that gave us a set of 5 aspirations that the community wanted. That's what we have been building our programs and services around.
And I think it's important that if any of our viewers have not walked into one of the Redwood City libraries in years, as I can say that it happened to me, they must walk in, even if they're not interested in checking out a book, but just walking in to see what libraries look and feel like today is so different than what we experienced as kids. So that's our first request, correct?
Absolutely.
Get into your library.
For sure. Yeah, it's very vibrant. It's very active. Actually, one of the complaints we get now is that there aren't enough quiet spaces because we have so much going on at any given time.
That's a fun problem to have,
Absolutely.
I'm sure. And then if anyone is there with their kids or grandkids, bring them in, because the other part of my surprise was the activities for all ages. So
absolutely, from
education seminars and and programs to activity spaces for young and our aging populations. It's just amazing to see the different spaces.
Teenagers as well. We have a whole dedicated area for teens that is has a comfy sofa to hang out on, and they're in there, they're playing video games, they're chatting with their friends, they're having a snack, they're doing their homework kind of all at the same time in this space that's dedicated for them.
So tell us the part that we traditionally think about libraries, and that is the checking out of books. How has that changed, and are people doing that more or less, or how has the library evolved with that kind of service today?
Sure. There's a portion of it that has moved to the online content that I was talking about. About 10% of our book checkouts now are ebooks that people borrow on their device or on their computer. We're seeing a little bit of a decline in people checking out movies and music, again, because of the streaming services that are available. A lot of people watch movies on Netflix or Hulu rather than getting a DVD from the library. But book circulation is still pretty strong, especially children's books. That really hasn't diminished over that time. That's still a really important need of the community that we fulfill.
And you bring up a great point, because libraries do have to evolve with communities, and it's great that you're having these community conversations about what do libraries mean to family life today, or to individuals and to youth, because I remember as, again, a young folk going into a library to do research on a paper, because that's where our books were available. Well, now we think about the online access to information through searches. However, not everyone has that access. So you've actually brought wireless or Wi-Fi access to your community through your libraries to ensure that all people have the ability to search and to do research through online activities.
Correct. People can come in and borrow a device to take home for 3 weeks that gives them internet access. You know, some people don't have internet at home, or some people do have just through their mobile devices, but they have a really limited data plan. And, you know, especially with the amount of homework that is in an online environment now with the schools, it's really important that the students have that access.
Tell us just a little bit about the uniqueness of each location that you have in Redwood City.
Sure. So our downtown library, which is right across the street from City Hall, is kind of the hub. It's kind of where a lot of the programs and services originate, and where we do a lot of our big events, because that's the central place. We have a very vibrant library in the Redwood Shores community that's been there about 10 years, that's incredibly well used. It checks out probably about 2/3 as many books as the main library does, even though it's only about half the size.
And I love its access to the marine, sort of the waterways. It's just a great combination of that outdoor feel and that outdoor environment feel to also the library.
So while we're on the subject of Redwood Shores, there are a couple of things that are going to be happening there. We have an interpretive center that I'm sure you've seen about the wildlife and the ecology of the bay. We're raising some money to make that more interactive, replace some of the just panels of text with touch screens to make it more engaging and more educational. We're also in the process of working with Chris Beth in our Parks and Rec department to put a 100-foot-long pirate ship outside the story room at the library. So there's going to be an interactive art play area around this pirate ship, which I think should make me the envy of every library director in the country, to have a big pirate ship that's part of one of my elements of our service to children.
Right.
And then we have a small neighborhood library in the called Sheaburg, which is in the Roosevelt neighborhood, right near Roosevelt School and Key Market. That tends to be a little bit more seniors in the neighborhood, although we do get a big after-school crowd from Roosevelt as well. But mornings, it's a much more kind of quiet place. A lot of people like to pick up holds there if they don't like to pay for parking downtown. Sheaburg makes that accessible because it's not far from downtown. And then we operate a library in the Fair Oaks community that's in the Human Services building that we just remodeled last summer, remodeled and expanded. We added a teen space there. We have some great new technology in there. We've tried to, we put a great childhood, the early learning spaces I mentioned, the one there is all based around the concept of a farmer's market truck. So while it's teaching early literacy skills, it's also teaching food and nutrition information. And that's a very beloved neighborhood library for the Fair Oaks community.
Well, and you mentioned a little bit about the pirate ship, so you gave us a little bit of a view into the future for the Redwood Shores library. But what's the future of libraries in Redwood City?
So there are a couple of things that we have going on. One that's coming up right soon is we have a program called Library Takeover, which we are inviting members of the community to suggest programs or ideas for things they'd like to see happen at the library that haven't been happening. Particularly, we're hoping those will be targeted towards underserved populations who don't come into the library as much, our seniors and veterans and LGBTQ, people of color, people with disabilities. And we actually have a mini grant program that people will get grants to help the library put on the event that they like to see. So, I think that's my vision, is that we're really that responsive and that connected with what's going on in the community. I think that's really important.
So Derek, tell us some of the new programs that are going to be happening this summer.
Sure. We always have our Summer Learning Challenge every year, that we have thousands and thousands of kids come to the library and track their reading over the summer to keep them reading so that they don't lose the educational progress that they're making during the school year. And we have tons of fun activities. There's something every week at all 4 libraries with magicians and detectives and puppets, and I mean, just really engaging, really exciting performances for the kids to take advantage of. So everyone should definitely be a part of that. Something that's relatively new at the library that people have been really excited about is we've actually added some rooftop beehives at the downtown library, which people really love that we have those, and we've added a little interpretive area in the children's section about pollinators and their role in the food supply, and we have a local beekeeper who's going to do some programs to help teach kids about the importance of bees in our environment. We're working on gearing up for construction of a makerspace at the downtown library. So not only with tech tools like a 3D printer and laser cutter and those kind of things, but also some things that people might not have at home anymore, but that are important for crafting and hobbies, like sewing machines and other things that people can interact with. And then finally, we're just waiting for the final approval on a grant that for us to launch a library robot delivery program. That if you've seen those little delivery robots around Redwood City, we're actually going to have them going out 7 days a week to take books to people who, particularly focusing on seniors, people with disabilities, people who are homebound that can't physically get to the library. So the robot will bring the book to your door, and then it'll come back and pick it up and take it back to the library when you're done with it.
I love that. There's something for me that just having the book in my hand, it's such a tactile thing that I much prefer to read a book that's a live book that's in my hand versus a book that I've gotten on one of my devices. So I appreciate that delivery system so very much.
Well, and everything is not available in ebook. A lot of the newer, more popular things are, but if you're reading, all the books from an author that you've come to enjoy, they might not all be available electronically yet.
Right. How can people get involved? How do we support the library? I know you're really encouraging activity and people to come down and visit, check out books, take advantages of the education seminars and the activities within the libraries, but how else can we help you?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's great volunteer opportunities, whether you want to tutor an adult or a child who's learning to read, whether you want to work with our friends of the library who operate a bookstore in the lobby and help them sort books and raise money for library programs, volunteering to read to children through our traveling storytime program. There are a lot of ways to get involved. We also have several library support groups. I've mentioned our Library Foundation and our Friends of the Library. We have a local history group. There's a Friends of Literacy group, and all of those volunteer organizations that support the library are always looking for help. And of course, the Friends of the Library and the Library Foundation are always happy to take donations towards the initiatives that we're working on as well.
Well, and it sounds like it really does take a village to raise a library. So, and libraries are so very important as stakeholders in our community. So thank you so much for the work that you do. Your enthusiasm and all the creative programs that you've brought as library director to our community and to San Mateo County. And I look forward to talking to you next time about the pirate ship once it arrives in Redwood Shores.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danny.
Well, thanks, Derek, for joining us. And we'll see all of you next time, and maybe at the library on PenVoice.